Hey bitches, welcome back to another episode of Confessionals. Today's episode, we're going to talk about sex. I feel like we haven't talked about sex in a while. And after all, this is a sex comedy slash mental health podcast. So it's about damn time we talk about doing the nasty. But this episode is not gonna be, I don't know. I just can't talk about hoeing the way that I used to anymore. It's just maybe it'll awaken in me at some point, but I'm not really feeling like much of a hoe lately. Like these days I'm just not in that mood, not in that space. But today we're going to talk about sex and we're going to ask the question, is sexual experimentation needed for sexual fulfillment? Because a lot of people, including myself at some point, thought that the answer to that is yes. Like you need to experience different things, different people, different situations in order to feel satisfied sexually or satisfied with your sex life. And because one day, hopefully, you know, you're going to be married to one person and you're going to be monogamous, as most people are. And then hopefully you don't have wandering thoughts, right? So to me, the answer to this has always been yes. But lately I've been questioning that a little more because I'm 29 and after some partial hoeing and dating different people, having different experiences, it's just, I'm realizing two things. I'm realizing that hoeing is not what it's amped up to be. At least for women, it's not. And I'm also realizing that sex is a lot more valuable than what I gave it credit for. So, yeah. In today's episode, we're going to talk about hoe faces. We're going to talk about social conditioning versus natural desires. We're going to discuss gender and sexuality, celibacy, and how we perceive and pursue sex and for what reasons. So we're at the end, I kind of do want to conclude how we view sex as a society and why people do it, because I feel like having, and this might be a little bit early to say in the intro, but I feel like sometimes people do find some sort of fulfillment in their promiscuous or adventurous sex lives, but it's not necessarily because of the sex. Like it might be the validation, the social aspect of it, the intimacy that is derived from that. And I think there's a problem with that because sex is should be a healthy thing. It's so intimate. It is valuable. It does hold a lot of value. And there's a lot of dangers attached to it, emotional and physical. So I think it would be ignorant of me to say that sex doesn't mean anything and that you should just have fun with it when it's a responsibility because there's so many risks involved in it. But yeah, without saying anything more, without further ado, let's get this episode started. Are whole faces necessary for a fulfilling sex life? This is a tough question. This is a tough question because I really do believe that it depends who you're asking. There's a lot of people that are a little cray cray, and like they like sex. I mean, most people generally like sex, right? And there's people that genuinely like variety and the fun that is involved in flirting and dating around. So I think genuinely what I believe is that sometimes hoe faces are necessary for sexual fulfillment and to eventually not have like regrets or a wondering eye once you are committed to somebody. I do think they're necessary, but But I don't think every hoe face looks the same. And what some people consider a hoe face may not be a hoe face for somebody else. Like, I don't know. I One of my one of my friends, we were talking on the phone, and this bitch is not a hoe, has never been a fucking hoe. And this person, we were on the phone and they were talking about like, oh yeah, back then when I was hoeing. And I'm like, this bitch, not to put this bitch on blast, but that bitch was not hoeing. Like, no, no. Just because you dated a few people doesn't mean that you were hoeing. And I'm putting this bitch on blast, but whatever, fuck it. Um, and I was like, bitch, what the fuck? What whole face are you fucking talking about? Like, don't be fucking ridiculous. What the fuck are you talking about? And then I have other friends that they're like, oh, I'm celibate now. Like, I haven't had sex in so long. It's been so long for me. Like, I've been good. And I'm like, oh my God, really? How long have you gone? And they're like, 2 weeks. I'm like, bitch, 2 fucking weeks. And your hole is closed all of a sudden. You are reborn. Your hymen is put back together, bitch. Your boy hymen is back together, back intact. No, no. So anyway, I think that a hoe face means something different for everybody. And I do see value in having fun, going out, dating, meeting different people. But I do believe also that your intentions and your heart have to be in the right place. And I learned this the hard way because when I first started dating, like actually not high school dating, but actually adult dating, I I made tons of mistakes, you know. I was dating guys, but I wasn't dating guys to have fun, and I wasn't dating guys to get a good treatment. Or yeah, like I was dating because I felt like it was something that I was supposed to do that I didn't get to do. And part of that desire was reasonable because I was very sheltered as a kid. I was like basically imprisoned my whole life. So when I gained a little bit of agency, I had some agency over my life now because I was an adult. Technically, I was like 19, but I had absolutely no guidance. No guidance, no direction. I was so lost and I just wanted to quote unquote catch up. So I started dating a bunch of guys all for the wrong reasons. I was so lost and I did not have fun. It was not enjoyable, really. Like there was some adventure to it and I have some fun stories. Like not all of it was bad, but if I could go back, I would do it so differently. So differently. I just did not know my worth. I didn't love myself and I was just dating anybody that I found attractive. And that's never a good thing. Never a good thing. So, yeah, my standards were low. Were low. Like as long as I thought the guy was cute, okay. Like I wouldn't once the dates because I wasn't vetting these guys when the dates would go bad, I was just kind of like frozen. I didn't know what to do. I had no backup plan. I was just completely reckless. And if I had to ask myself that question was that hoe face? Because I kind of some people don't consider it a hoe face, but I do. Um, was that necessary for me to find sexual fulfillment? Absolutely fucking not. Absolutely fucking not. There's maybe like one or two of those experiences, maybe through no. Like there's barely any experiences where I was like, okay, I would keep that one the way it is. Even, I wouldn't. Like even though I would still hang out with those people maybe at that age, I would have handled things differently. I would have just gotten more out of these men. Even the shitty ones, like I would have just gotten more out of them. But yeah, I don't think that was necessary. When I broke up with my ex, I did it wasn't really a whole face, but I was definitely. Immediately after the breakup, I started dating, and I'm glad that I did. I'm so glad that I did, but there's some people in there that I heavily regret. So, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily the whole faces or like how much sex you have that is necessary for sexual experiences, but I think it's more so about the quality of the sexual experiences. Like there's guys that I've dated that have been like mediocre or just whatever, but the sexual experiences were so good that I'm like, I'm not gonna take that back, bitch. Like that was fun. Like I had fun with this person, the sex was good. I got something out of it, or they treated me really well, they were good company. So those things are the things that I think are necessary for myself just to have like a generally sexually fulfilling sex life. Like I want to have pleasant experiences and that's it. And that doesn't equate to dating having sex with a bunch of people. I think that for a lot of us, the social conditioning gets to us. Like as a girl, I grew up with everybody telling me that I needed to be the Madonna in the Madonna whore complex, right? That I you shouldn't have sex with boys because then that would make me a slut, that I had to be classy, elegant, all these things that I can be when I want to, but that's just like if I'm not the classiest and most elegant person, I can be, and I would enjoy doing it like in a specific setting where I am required to be classy and elegant, but generally that's not how I am, bitch. Like I'm only like that when I want to be. Generally, it's not an identifier for me. So I felt pressured for a lot of my life to be something that I wasn't. And even like wanting to masturbate or feel some sort of sexual pleasure was heavily frowned upon. So once I detached from all those ideas, I just went to the other extreme and it was worse. It was worse. It was worse than being celibate. Because at least when you're celibate, you're protected from men and all these other things. I think that the quote unquote like sexual liberation of women, I know what it's supposed to mean. And it's supposed to mean autonomy, making our own choices, embracing our sexuality, being authentically ourselves. That is the true message of sexual liberation for women. But a lot of people have misconstrued it and made it this thing where it's like, oh, we were told not to be sluts, and now we're gonna be sluts just to irk you, just to spite you. And the intentions are just so fucking twisted with that because at the end of the day, you're just harming yourself because the message of misogyny is either be pure for us or be a slut for us. And when the biggest message is, oh, you need to be pure, you need to be a good wife, a good mother, a good daughter, when that's the main message and you do something to spite someone, your body is still being affected. Like they were trying to take control of your body in the way that they found to be the purest. And now they're still in control of your body, but in a way where they'll respect you even less. So it's just wrong. It's just absolutely wrong. Like being a slut, being sexually liberated does not mean that you should be promiscuous or giving your body, because for men and for women equally, I believe that sex should be a sacred thing. Now, the difference is that I think for women, there's a lot of more risks involved, with safety, even with diseases. Like, it's so much easier for women to get STDs because of the way that our bodies are built. And I think it's important for all of us to really examine our genuine desires outside from what the world tells us. And for myself, I've kind of had to go back into this sounds freaky, but I've had to go back into my childhood and think of the time when I first started thinking about sex and where that came from. Because again, like I've said this many, many times before on my podcast, but everything stems in childhood. Like you are programmed at childhood, and then once you reach adulthood, then you live out your life and in the world as you were programmed in childhood. But all the most important things happen in childhood. And I remember when, like, one of the first times I thought about sex or considered sex, it was it was on the television. It was on telenovelas. It was when I would snoop around my parents' room and find my dad's pornography, or his Playboy magazines, and I would see all these naked women. And I started having sexual thoughts very early. I think earlier than normal, than what some people would consider normal. Like I think I started thinking about sex, or like feeling like that sort of desire, like 4 years old. 4 years old is kind of crazy, but I didn't think it was like the worst thing. Like now in adulthood, like I don't think it was the worst, because there's a lot of innocence to it. And I didn't there was a lot of like ignorance. I didn't really know what sex was. I just knew like what explicit images looked like. And yeah, there was a lot that I still didn't understand, but that shaped me in like later on when I was in middle school and high school. I just thought about sex a lot. Like I was kind of like a little teenage boy, but as a girl. And now as an adult, I question, like, would I have been into sex as much if I hadn't been exposed to those things early on in my childhood? And I don't think I'll really know the answer to that, at least not anytime soon. But what I can answer is, how do I feel right now in this moment? Like, what is my genuine desire right now based on how I grew up, the sexual partners that I've had, the experiences that I've had, the relationships. What have I gathered from all of that, and what can I take away? And what I can take away is that I'm a sexual person. I do like sex. I want to have sex, but I'm not really as horny as I thought I was. Yeah. Like I think there's moments where I am, if I'm really into somebody. Yeah, but I'm not as sexual. I think I am like slightly above average sexual, but I thought I was like off the charts sexual, and I'm actually not. Like that's something that I realized, and it's so crazy. And I kind of realized that in my relationship, because I like there was subconsciously I realized that with past partners, I felt like I had to be that way, and that I had to be this like horny person and always have sex. And sometimes I do feel that way, but not all the time. Like there's times where I'm just like, I'm tired. And in past relationships, I always felt like I just had to. Like I could never be too tired. I could never say no. And that made me feel like, oh, then I always just want to have sex because I'm having it. But yeah, the more you know, the more you know. I'm putting my business out there, but yeah, I mean, it's important to ask yourself like what your true desires are, what you crave from, like what you crave from sex, because it's not just like something that you do. There's a lot of things that come attached with sex. Um, it can be having a lot of sex can be a manifestation of trauma, of avoidance, like avoiding your own issues, creative suppression. I also feel like when I'm creatively suppressed, when I'm not expressing myself creatively, I want to have more sex. Like there's a lot of pent up emotion, and I just need to like release it somehow. So I think sex can be a manifestation for a lot of negative things that go on, but on on the opposite end, I think it's also can also be a manifestation of very beautiful things that we naturally crave as human beings, which are connection, intimacy, love. So now, knowing those things, realizing those things, I I value sex more as like an act of connection. And because I see it through those lens now, I don't just want to have like I don't crave having sex with just anybody. Like yeah, no, it would have to be like somebody just special, like somebody that means something. And I look back at my casual encounters and all I can think is like, okay, the few that I don't regret, the very few that I don't regret, I either just liked the person and the sex was good. The sex always had to be good. Like I feel like which ones have I yeah. Like if the sex wasn't good, I'm gonna regret it. I'm gonna be like, yeah, well that sucked. But anyway, I feel like the casual encounters that I've had that I don't regret are people that I did like and respected and that respected me. Um, or the sex was just like off the charts, crazy good. You know, I'm like, okay, well that was fine, you know, but it's like long term when it comes to those casual encounters, it's like I don't even crave that anymore because maybe I'll change my mind. I don't know. I'm not really that's not really at the forefront of my mind, but I just value sex a lot more. Also because I value myself a lot more. Like even if somebody if even if I'm presented with somebody that is going to give me the best sex of my life but doesn't really care about me, I don't really think I want to do that. I don't want to spend time with that person. And not too long ago, I was just like kind of whatever about it. And I don't necessarily regret that. I think that was just the space that I was at in that moment. But now I just keep valuing myself more and more and more the older that I get. So yeah, I'm not gonna be having these deeply, deeply intimate moments where you're literally naked with somebody, like exchanging bodily fluids and doing this crazy act. Like, no, no. When you really think about it, it's like that's a crazy thing to do with somebody. That is actually a crazy thing to do with somebody, and we've grown so desensitized because of pornography, because of television. It's just so accessible. And I'm not saying it's a sin to have casual encounters or it's bad. I think it can be healthy. Like I don't think there's anything wrong and I'm not even shutting myself down to that. But I think now I just view it through a lens where I just want to be more careful. I want to be more careful. I want to protect myself more. And I want to give that part of myself to somebody that like I love or that will love, that I see myself loving. So, yeah. Yeah. That's just that's just what I think of that. And that's what I've gathered from really asking myself what my genuine desires are because in the past when I've had sex even with like just one person, even when I've been monogamous, it's sometimes that just wasn't even my genuine desire. Like I was just doing it out of trauma. There was no thought behind it. There was no intention. There was no knowledge, no awareness. So it was just doing. It was just doing. I was just being controlled. So yeah, very important to ask yourself what your true, deep down, genuine desires are in regards to sex. And I think the answers can vary a lot based on gender and sexuality. For men, men are just fed that you should have variety, that you should conquer, blah, 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 all these things. And I think some men may have fun with that. And even some women, I have a hard time relating because that's not what I really desire. But I do hear of people that are like Samantha from Sex and the City, right? Or and then there's a lot of men that are like that. But I even question it a little bit. I'm like, do you really want that? Like, do you really want to just be just be doing that? And if the answer is yes, then so be it, right? Then so be it. And it should be fine regardless of whether you're a man or a woman and your sexual orientation. Um And I may even have some biases here because I wouldn't really frown upon like a lesbian hoe, like a lesbian that's just like fucking all these women. But I also frown less upon it because I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it's just safer to have sex with women. Like in I mean, maybe not emotionally, but I don't know. I feel like it's just like maybe a better experience, like dating and hoeing around with women than hoeing around with men. Maybe that's why. I think the circumstances kind of change when it has to do with that. But yeah, anyways, men are fed this idea that their masculinity is dependent on how many women they fuck and how much variety they have. And they are starving for the social validation and the validation from women and other men. And that's when I think that people have sex for just the wrong reasons. For straight men, I think sometimes they just seek out sex for validation or for praise or to confirm to themselves that they are masculine and that they are desired. And those things have a lot to do with like your worth, your own self-worth. It's very similar to a woman having a lot of sex because she wants the romantic and sexual validation. She wants to feel beautiful. So like a woman having a lot of sex because she wants to feel beautiful and desired is the same thing as a man having a lot of sex because he wants to feel masculine and desired. It's just it's for the wrong reasons. You're putting yourself in danger. You are seeking empty forms of validation. Like there's no growth there. There's no evolution. There's no growth at all. And you are not even having fun. Like if you're gonna hoe around, make sure that you're having fucking fun. That it's actually fun. Don't just tell yourself that it's fun, but make it fun. And sometimes for me, I feel like the fun part of being single and dating is flirting. That's just me. That's just me. It might be different for other people, but for me, I think it's just flirting and joking around with people. And like I do that more so for myself. Like I like flirting with people because I like just like I don't know, I think I like loosening up and being unserious. And I don't typically flirt with men. I do flirt with women a lot, but I don't flirt with men just because I don't want their attention. But once I got a drink in me and there's a cute man, bitch, I'd be flirting and I have a blast because you also get so much when you flirt with men. Oh my God, you get like if you flirt with a guy that's cool, you'll get drinks, you'll get good company, you'll have fun. I do love that about being single. I love that you can flirt with a guy, and if the guy happens to be cool, then you have a great night, right? But to me, that's kind of just as far as it goes. Um, yeah, yeah, that's just kind of as far as it goes for me. I think anything past that, maybe if I really like the guy, I'll go out with him. But it's, I don't know, like at that point, I'm just not taking it too seriously, and it's just more so for the fun of it and for the night. It's not really for the guy or to gain some sort of validation. It's just, bro, like I'm tired of the male validation. Like give me less, please. Like give me less. Like I like the women validation. I like it when women and gay men compliment me because that feels more genuine. That feels a lot more genuine. Like when a girl tells me I'm pretty, I'm just like, I am pretty. I am. And when a guy tells me I'm pretty, I'm just like, well, bitch, you're gonna tell me and 100 other bitches that I'm fucking pretty because you just like my whole thought is just I can tell when somebody's genuine. And even if they do think I am pretty, it's not, there's no value. Like they don't value it, so I don't value it. Why would I value that? It's like, it's cheap. It's fucking cheap. Anyway, yeah, I think a lot of people are having a lot of sex because they are lying to themselves and they are telling themselves that it's fun and that this is what it's supposed to be like, but they're just doing it for the validation, the lack of self-control. It's like gluttony. It's like gluttony. I've realized that the superficial things you get from sex is kind of like the temporary satisfaction you get from eating junk food. Like it's really fucking good in the moment, and you may think that it's good for you because you're enjoying it in those few minutes, but then once you're done, you feel disgusting. You feel absolutely terrible because you know that that's not really what you wanted to do. Like it was just an urge, and it might be a sexual urge, or it might be an urge for something deeper, for a desire for love or intimacy or attention. So, yeah. I I'm done with that shit. Like I am done with that shit, and even if it means that I'm like sexually deprived, I would just rather not have sex if it's gonna mean that I'm gonna feel like shit after. And yeah, yeah, it's just not like for me, the fun of being single is getting to know people and dating and sex. Now, I used to think that those things just went together, but they really don't. They really don't. And I've had to work really hard at unlearning that because even last year, I felt like 2023, I felt like I had a pretty successful dating period where I was intentionally dating. But looking back on it, yeah, it was fun, it was cool, but there's a lot of things that I kind of messed up on that I didn't fully realize until now. And it's that I felt like I had to had sex. And I lied to myself and I thought that because my mind knew that I didn't have to, that my body would just react the same and not do it. But that's not how it works. That's not how trauma, there's a book called The Body Keeps Score. So like trauma and beliefs and all these things are stored in your body. So it's not as easy as saying like, "Oh, I'm not going to think that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore." It takes a lot of meditation, therapy, um and yourself just working hard on like unprogramming all these beliefs. Yeah, so now like the way that I would approach dating if I went back into dating, it would just be like sex is not on the table. Like it's just not. It's not. It's even if I want to do it in that moment, I'm gonna think like this is just like a McDonald's meal that looks really good, but it may not feel good. It may not feel good, so I need to suss it out for a little longer. I need to wait a little longer because it just the risk of it not being good, it's pretty much 50-50 and or more like 60 negative 40 positive. So I'm not gonna take that chance. I'd rather wait a little bit and suss out the person and the situation and the circumstances before I dive into that sort of commitment, because sex is a commitment. You are committing to storing a memory in your brain that you may not want there. Like how many of us are fucking grossed out by some nasty ass gremlins that you had sex with? Like we have sex with. Like it's it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant. It is not pleasant to have a memory stored in your brain of a time where sex was not good and sex was not enjoyable, and all because you acted on a whim, or maybe you realized that the guy was kind of ugly, or maybe didn't deserve you. And yeah, it might have been consensual at the time, but if you would have put more thought into it, then you would have been like, never mind, I'm not gonna do this. So sex is a commitment. Even if you never do it again with that person, you are committing to a memory, to a very, very important memory that you're gonna remember forever. So I don't want any more negative memories. I really don't. Really fucking don't. Now I really see the value in celibacy. I think of celibacy as a form of cleansing, like as a cleanse from dating, from the world, from obviously sex. It's sex is a delicate thing, and it it holds a lot of value. So for me, celibacy is something that has been really great in my life for the most part. And I grew up on celibacy because I grew up Catholic and then I was Christian. So I thought that the way I saw celibacy then was in a misogynistic lens. And the way I see it now is in the like self-love feminist lens, where I see it as a way of protecting myself, protecting my body, and seeing the value, the actual value of sex. And I've realized that sex is meaningful. It's meaningful, it's intimate, it's sacred. Like that's why monogamous couples get jealous. Like if somebody cheats, like of course, like it's wrong. It's wrong because you even if there's no emotions involved, like it's such a powerful act that we can't just pretend like it's fucking nothing. Like that's absolutely fucking ridiculous. If it was nothing, then have sex with fucking everybody. It's just yeah, it's meaningful. It's a form of bonding. It's a form of growing closer to your partner. And yeah, it's more than just pleasure. So I think that there's a lot of value in sexual discipline and self-control in the same way that there's value in diet and exercise. It's taking care of yourself. Like you're not just gonna go binge McDonald's because it feels good, because it gives you pleasure. Where are you gonna end up if you just do that? You're gonna end up fucking obese and sick. So if you don't exercise, if you don't move your body, and that doesn't mean like go ham on the gym, but if you don't move your body, you're gonna encounter all these health problems. And same thing with sex. If you just do it out of like gluttonous desire in that manner with sex, if you're just promiscuous, it could lead to very bad things like disease, like bad attachments to people that maybe you shouldn't be attached to, negative experiences. You expose yourself to all these dangers. And I'm not saying that, oh, being celibate is the only way, but I think being celibate keeps me grounded. It keeps people grounded and it helps you make more educated decisions and it helps you choose your sexual partners better. So, because I'm more leveled and I'm not acting out fairly, I can give more thought into who I allow to do that with me. Like it's not just gonna be some random bitch. Like I'm definitely not in that space anymore. And I'm so glad that I see things a lot clearly now. And even when I was celibate a few years ago, I think it was like 2021, 2022, I was celibate for a year. And towards the end of it, I was like getting really annoyed because I was super horny. But now looking back, I realized I was just like, really craving a fucking McDonald's meal. Like I took things away from it. Like I learned how to like I hadn't never gone that long without sex in my life. So I was very proud of myself and I felt a lot of peace in not dating and not interacting with men and even women. Like I just felt very at peace. So it was productive. But at the end, I just really wanted my McDonald's meal because I wasn't truly seeing the value that celibacy was supposed to provide me. And the value is that my body is absolutely fucking sacred. It's a sacred space, and I need to vet people very, very carefully. And I need to protect myself. And celibacy and abstaining from sex is just a way of having better sex with better people. That's the way I see it now. It's not just abstaining, it's not just not eating. It's you are not eating because a lot of the food being provided for you isn't healthy. So you kind of have to take a step back and look and see which is healthy, and then you can eat that one. And you can stop abstaining and eat that one. Eat the good food. Okay? Okay? Only eat the good food, bitch. But yes, yes. This episode, I was a fucking nun in this episode, but I'm just not. Yeah, like I don't really see myself in that way anymore. Like even I'm all for like this is completely different topic, but I'm all for posting sexy pictures, bikini pictures and being hot, but it's just the older I get, I don't want to do that as much. Like I don't want to feel super sexual. I want to be sexual and I want to feel sexy, and like I obviously still dress like pretty skimpy when I go out, but I'm not really as it's not as attractive to me anymore to be posting all these like sexy pictures. And maybe I will, when I feel like it, but I mean, part of it has to do with the type of attention that I get. Like I hate being sexualized, and maybe we wouldn't have to practice celibacy as much if people were just better. But yeah, it's just again a way of protecting myself, and I would rather be dressed sexy and be sexy out on the street when I'm with my friends and people that care about me than online when I'm exposed to all these eyes. So, yeah, I'm kind of changing the way that I'm perceiving myself and perceiving certain things, and I do want to be sexy and sexual and whatever, but I don't want to be defined by that. I don't want that to be at the forefront of my head. And similar to just like even beauty, like being beautiful. Like I want to be beautiful, I want to feel beautiful, but that's just not at the center. And yeah, I think true fulfillment comes from doing things on your own terms and honoring what you really, really desire. Like what I desire is honestly just to be happy, but what is actually going to make me happy? It's hopefully being with like the love of my life, like my partner, and being happy with that person. And if that doesn't happen, like I'm still going to be happy in my relationships and my friendships with myself. I'm really learning the value of like this sounds really silly, but exercise, being active, and practicing things that honor myself, being creative, doing things like this podcast, thinking of creative ideas, working, giving myself a comfortable environment. Those are the things that I actually desire. It's just like comfort and peace. And my past desires have really diminished because they were not based on a genuine desire. They were more so based on these like very basic needs that weren't being met. Like I wanted to be famous at one point. And still, to some extent, like I would like that, but it's not a desire anymore. It's not like my main thing. I really can't picture my life being famous. Like it's just kind of like because I don't want to have the lack of privacy, the danger, all that. Like I don't think I want that anymore. But anyway, I used to want that because I wanted to be seen and I wanted to be recognized and I wanted to be praised. Something that I didn't really get when I was younger. And then I realized that I get that praise and I get that validation from people that love me and that have cared for me. So once I got that, once I saw the value in that, I'm like, I don't need it anymore. Like, I'm not because I'm getting it from the people that actually matter. So when it comes to sex, I feel like sex holds the most value and it's the most satisfying when you are doing it in the confines of a relationship of a person that you love and respect and that loves and respects you, because it's just an activity that you do together because you trust each other and you love each other and you use it as a means of connection, just like you use like telling your secrets or asking your partner for advice or doing something for them, gifting them something. It's like it's just an act of love and devotion. And when it's done in the safety of a relationship or a marriage, it's just I think it can be better. It and that's why I also think it's important to find somebody that you're sexually compatible with, because pleasure does matter. I'm not going to say that it doesn't, because it does. Sexual compatibility and pleasure matters. So when you share that with somebody that you love, I think for me, that is peak fulfillment. That is peak sexual fulfillment. And I didn't really need these like most of the experiences that I had. Like I would cut most of them off. I would erase them from my memory and from my body and from everything if I could, because I really truly did not need that. Did not need that. What there are some things that I did need. I wouldn't even say need. It's just some things that I'm like, okay, that was fun. That's a great story. But yeah, like I feel like to me, like what I actually desire is just peace, peace and love in a community. Yeah, like it's not complicated anymore. And part of that has just been because I've been really introspective, done a lot of work, and what used to be my biggest nightmare, which was being married, having a family, not being famous, is now I think one of my biggest desires. And even that I feel like I don't need. Like it's just I've just been so flexible that I'm like I can be happy. Whatever it is, whatever my life turns out, like I can be happy and I will find a way to be happy. And I also don't have a scarcity mindset. Like that's something that has been a little bit tough lately, but it's I feel like I have all the resources and privilege available to me to live the life that I want to live. So, yeah, and that doesn't involve hoeing or doing or seeking empty validation at all. But again, I'm not knocking down the hustle of like some people need to hoe, some people need to get money, some people are going through shit. Like to some extent, I kind of also see how the world has tainted us, how the world has tainted people. And there's a lot of grace that needs to be given. I've needed to give, and I think I still need to give some grace to myself for my mistakes. So, yeah, I think the most important thing is addressing what your true desires are outside of the trauma, outside of the experiences, outside of all that. And it's not easy doing that, but I mean, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. And once you address that, if you still want to hoe around, if you still want to go out and have fun, if you actually just enjoy that, then bitch, go. It's not, there's no necessarily like right or wrong way of doing things. Like, even being like polyamorous, like, I don't look down on that. I feel like for some people it works and it's fine, and the way that they view sex, it kind of makes sense. So, yeah, I think it's different for everybody. So, I've just shared what has been true for me, how I feel, and I do think that the path that I've chosen can be relatable to a lot of people, especially women. But yeah, that concludes today's episode. Thank you guys so much for listening to my yapping, for listening to Confessionals Virgin Propaganda Podcast. Just kidding, just kidding. Yeah, I don't believe in saving sex for marriage. I do not believe in that, and I do not condone that. I also feel like there is some level of like sexuality that needs to be expressed before committing to a marriage. But yeah. Yeah, just so we're clear. I am not being closed-minded. I'm not being closed off to sex. I'm just saying that celibacy is a tool for self preservation, for protection, for self love, and for better sex. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.